While I'm busy on the bulkheads, I'm going to also talk about the angling of the edge so that when you get to your planking, your planks lie nicely on the edge. Now, just in reference to this HMS Victory hull, which I was busy on a long time ago, where I was very focused on getting the bulkheads onto the keel and getting everything neat, ready for planking, and leaving the angling of the bulkheads for a second task. In hindsight, I would change that because it's sort of a little bit more difficult to actually work, certainly with tools and sanding, on only a single bulkhead at a time. I'm probably going to have to use a Dremel tool and sort of sit there and grind each one down and keep on checking it and grinding it down. I mean, it's not the worst, but in hindsight, I think I would have preferred not to leave it till after it was assembled. So with these, I'm just going to speak about the angling of those bulkheads. Now, it's quite a lot easier if you're sitting with a teensy little thin bulkhead like this, even though, as I've said, the planking will be way more difficult. But your plank has got such narrow, this one's barely 3 millimeters area worth of touching, and if you sand that, I mean, you'll very quickly have it at the correct angle. So a very easy job when you have these thin bulkheads. Not to mention that if these are actually already attached, you know, you have to be holding the edges there, because if you're not bracing each individual one, you'll just break your bits of bulkhead right off there with the force that you're exerting while sanding. So I'm not really talking about those. I am talking about the ones which have a more substantial edge to them, 7 millimeters. So I need to get these angled correctly, and I'd like to get them, I would say, just about 100% correctly sanded and edged to the correct angle before I'm gluing them onto the keel. But what I am going to use this one for in demonstration is just to show you that the angle, I'll refer to the other one as well, but just showing you that the angle is not constant over the whole bulkhead. So don't get sort of really focused in on the angle that you're going to do your particular bulkhead when it changes from keel to up there. Now you'll notice that this is pretty much flat on the bottom here, which means there's no tapering on the bottom edge there. It's over here we start getting the tapering up to the bow. So this one's got a lot of tapering to be done, but these have got nothing. So where does it start? Well, if you go across, if you sort of lay that across, you start getting an idea. As soon as there's a bit of angle there, then you can see that this bulkhead would start getting a little bit of an angling to that one. That one gets a bit more to that one, and so on and so on. So whereas back up at the top there, almost nothing. Right, so in this region here is your most amount of tapering required per bulkhead, angling of the edge of the bulkhead. And obviously, again, at the rear here, you've certainly got a whole lot happening here at the bottom. Not much here. It almost ends pretty straight. On this one, the pillar, so if I show you that, right at the top edge of your bulkheads is what I'm looking at over here. That one there, which corresponds with number 4, almost nothing. The ones before it, you can judge the amount of angle on the top edge only. and this will give you a fair idea of your top edge. At the keel, no tapering at the bottom, and then quite a bit of tapering there, and then in between, obviously, the way to judge it is when you place it in position on your keel, and you've got the one in front and the one behind, you can use your ruler to judge what the angle is there. So you sort of need to do a couple at a time. Don't just try and work one and make your estimates. Okay, so now that we've got our plan in place for the pilar, when you start filing and sanding, what you don't want to do is go past your original line. So I've got mine in pen there, but you often want to go just onto the line. It depends how you've marked your bulkheads. If you have simply put it in position and used the pen to go around it, then your line is a little bit bigger than what your bulkhead is. So you're obviously going to keep on measuring. You're not making it from a template bulkhead. You're probably working it from a printed paper. Most likely relevant for scratch build kits, in this case reproducing stuff. Keep on measuring it, sanding straight downwards or filing straight downwards till you've got your good side, and then your other side is the side which you need to taper. Now keep a good sort of mental process of which side is going to be your fore side and aft side. Mark them. If this is going to be my fore side, mark it fore and aft so you don't get confused. I mean, I doubt you would, because your angle's going to tell you that. Now, once you've got that front side really nicely shaped, and that's perfect, we don't want to, as we're tapering it, damage that front side by eating a little bit away, by filing too much. Even so, we're doing our angle, but we're actually starting to eat into the front side. Use a marker when you start off. Use a marker pen, or doesn't really matter what you use, to color the whole edge of the bulkhead. Give yourself marks where, so for instance, let's say this area, no tapering. Give yourself marks where, make up some system for yourself, medium tapering, or how many millimeters, or actually indicate it there, measure, and give yourself a back line to work with. But if it's not that easy to actually determine a back line to work with, I mean, it probably is worth your while trying to get some sort of estimate and use a guideline. But otherwise, you're tapering and test fitting, so that you know, well, don't, as I'm saying here, don't go into that area, because that area needs to remain straight. This area is more tapering. Test fit with your ruler, test fit. Now of course, okay, I actually almost skipped on that part. When I put my ruler against it, that's a straight line point between the bulkheads. But our plank isn't going to end up being a straight line. It's going to have that slight curvature as we join in, and certainly more curvature on the higher curvature areas. So just be aware, you're not trying to get a perfect flat surface from one bulkhead to that one, because it won't necessarily be the same from this one to that one. On the highest side, so on the thickest side, if this side of my bulkhead was the part that I don't want to taper, and that's the part that I do want to taper, and you're fitting and you're testing your ruler here, that's the edge you don't want to take any more off. It's this side that you're wanting to taper. Use a plank as well. Don't just use the ruler. Test fit with your plank and try and judge by looking at it and seeing if you're getting a flat touch on most of your surface. It's better to almost have eaten away a little bit too much on the taper side, because then all it means is you're going to have a little bit of loose glue in essence on your inside of your bulkhead there. But what you don't want is that it's a bit too high, pushing your plank out a bit too much, if that makes sense. So as I now have my marked highlighter marked, or whatever color you've marked this with, as you're sanding, obviously the areas that you don't want to sand, you're keeping tabs on them, no color removed from there. The area, you're obviously going to be removing all of the color from there, but as you're doing it, you'll be judging how much is left on the very edge. So if you've still got a while to go, you'll see thicker remaining piece of color left, and so you carry on using that as a bit of a guideline. So I will certainly be trying to get all my bulkheads. I haven't cut the inside out here yet. I first want to get all the manhandling of the outside right, and then I'll do the inside cut. I'll certainly be trying to get all of the bulkheads into really good state before putting them onto the keel. And as I'd mentioned in the previous video, I've only done a thin slot cut in there, so that when I've got all my bulkheads ready and lined up, I'll be able to judge if I've made a little bit of an error, because what I should be seeing when my bulkheads are correctly lined up by shape and by top surface, for instance, is that my bottom line, my little cutaway notches are lining up very well. You can even use something to slot in there, a little saw blade or something. I know that's not the easiest to actually verbalize the tapering, but I'm hoping that you got the gist of that. Give a shout in the comments if I needed to explain an aspect of that in a little bit more detail. Hope that helped.